Today's sermon topic is we are born for love. And of course, I'm Pastor Frank, Family Church of San Diego, Family Federation for World Peace and Unification. And this is from Mother's Anthology. And this book is the second book, A Model for the Ideal Family and World Peace, which is the theme of all ACLC and Family Federation for World Peace. That if we could create families that are separated from the curse in the Garden of Eden, and instead of being cursed, are blessed, and families now create, and we say the broken family of Adam and Eve caused what? Caused the original first murder. Cain versus Abel, and the murder of Abel is the same story as all the other wars in all the world. That is somebody trying to steal something from somebody else, that somebody has something better or more than they have, therefore I'm going to kill them. In ideal families, right, parents don't teach their children to kill and steal from their brothers and sisters, right? We don't teach that. We say, no, you love your brother and sister, and if you have a brother and sister who happen to be better than you, then we're all proud and happy, but we're all the same at Christmas time, right? I'm sure all you guys, all the kids get a sort of same amount of presents, right? You don't love one kid over the other kid, right? Right? Oh, man.
We got none, all of us.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is, building a world of peace through ideal families is what our goal is. So I thought I'd share these words. One difficulty I have is this book isn't digitized yet. Like all of Father's speeches are digitized, and it's easy to just do this. So these I had to type. So if you notice a spelling error, it's because my typing skills. So this true mother, this is a young mother, right? We don't know how old she is there, but maybe in her 30s. Gorgeous. So this is what true mother says. Throughout history, humankind has sought to answer the basic questions, why are we born? Right? Did you guys ask that question? I did all the time. Same. Some have concluded that they were born for the sake of their country. Maybe they become patriots. I was born for the sake of my country, I'm a patriot. Others have decided they were born for the sake of their parents, and they become a good filial son to take care of their father, mother, their children. Still others believe they were born for their own sake. And then anyway, I won't decide that. People of faith, who we believe we are here in the room, believe they are born for the sake of God. Right? That's us. We believe that. Today, the world is in loss and great confusion and cries out in agony. We face endless conflict as individuals, in our families, and our nations, and in the world. As individuals, we are confronted with inner turmoil between our mind and body. Probably you guys don't, but some of us struggle between our mind and body. Families are affected by the moral decadence of young people and the breakdown of family traditions. Historical rivalries lead to distrust and even war among our nations, fanning the embers of uncertainty and hopelessness in the world. And they say a lot of millennials are really struggling with this. They don't know what life is or where to go or what's going to happen to them. The solution to all these problems lies in developing an ideal love relationship with God. Right? I'm sure you can find there's truth in that. Just like the song says, your faith is enough. Just like all of you have met or felt the Holy Spirit of God, I'm sure it changed your life and brought peace to you. Right? The creation of humankind involved the cooperation of many beings and many elements. Yet it is not enough to say that God created the universe for the sole benefit of human beings or even for God's own benefit. That's interesting, right? That's true mother. Listen to this. Although each had its own inherent purpose, they worked together to initiate the creative process. So, for example, elements, laws of physics have a purpose of their own, but there's a larger purpose involved in that. God's purpose in creating, the angel's purpose in assisting, nature's purpose in providing materials, and even the human purpose for being created are all consistent to one giant goal. Okay? So if we look at at all the materials in the universe, the beginning of the origin of the universe, creation of hydrogen, creation of helium, lithium, and all the other elements, and that iron, all those elements coming to create the earth, that all had its own purpose, but it also has a much larger purpose for humankind. Mother says there is a common purpose that is pleasing to God, to the angels, to the rest of creation, and to human beings themselves. So there's a purpose that will make the angels happy, that will make nature happy, and to make human beings happy, and finally make God happy. That's interesting to you? I read that and I thought, wow, that's really true to me. This shared purpose is something that the longer it is possessed, the greater the happiness and joy it provides. It is something that once we possess it, we would never let it go. It cannot be external in nature. It cannot be external in nature. It is something internal and invisible. Things like knowledge, money, and power are merely collateral conditions that are needed in people's lives. So we need money. We have to survive. We need food. We need air, water. We need clothing. But they're only collateral conditions. That's not the purpose of our life. We are not born into the world for the purpose of possessing them. Such external things exist in a reciprocal relationship with humankind only temporarily, right? We all know when we die, you can't take it with you. Even when you're alive, you can't take it with you. Not eternally. So that's the difference between external is invisible, internal is invisible and eternal, and external is visible but temporary. Let's keep going. God has no need for money. If Almighty God ever needed money, he could create as much as he desired, I guess. What would he need to buy with it? Anyhow, also we know that God is the root of all knowledge, since he created the universe through certain principles and laws. Right? The invisible laws of the universe had to come after the Big Bang. Right? You can study Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time, and he talks about what could be before the Big Bang and what could be after. And he makes it very clear there's no natural law that could create the universe. It had to be a supernatural experience beyond the laws of nature that it creates the laws of nature. Anyway, you can read that book yourselves. Furthermore, the Creator is the origin of power, so God has no need to seek power. What then is a common content or purpose that even God would be interested in? That is, it is something we cannot arrive at through human effort alone, and this is very important. You cannot, even if you're a blessed couple, you cannot come to that by human effort alone. This is because human effort cannot control the fundamental origin of life. This content is something that directs the motivation, course, and even final destination of each person's life. Right? Here's beautiful True Mother. She says, from this perspective, the common content can only be true love. That's the thing that can unite all things. Right? I was going to put a picture on here of, you know, those pictures of human beings and whales loving human beings. Mother says even a giant whale can be subdued by love. Even a big, powerful elephant can be subdued by love. Even lions who were raised by people from the time they were baby lions, when they meet the people who took care of them, their parents, so to speak, their adopted parents, they still love those people. They don't eat them. Human beings are born in love and are destined to go the path of love. People even die for love. Or, unfortunately, more often than not, die for a lack of love. Right? That's really a big, giant problem for people. This shows that love is more valuable than even life itself. Moreover, we see that love precedes life. Right? Especially for blessed couples, right? Didn't you guys pray for 40 days and 40 nights and fast and pray for when your children were going to be born, when you were conceiving your children? Didn't you do that? Yes. Clearly, love precedes life, ideally. That is why people willingly offered even their lives for the sake of love. Here's True Mother. Looks like you're aging him. A newborn baby automatically searches for its mother's breast, following the vibrations of her love. Whether she is beautiful or ugly does not matter to the baby. The only thing that matters is that she is his mother. It is a sacred scene manifested in limitless variety. I believe that's 100% true. Now, all modern science agrees. Children who get enough nutrition, enough warmth, enough air, but aren't cuddled and hugged, die. There's so much science to back that up that now in maternity hospitals, when babies are born and the mother still can't hold the baby, the nurses are trained to pick up the babies, talk to them, cuddle them, sing to them. That's science. It says children need to be cuddled, hugged, smiled at, laughed with, sung to. That's science now, right? So we say we are born in love. We grow by receiving love. So Mother says the nature of our parents' love is made visible in us. Parents love their children because their children are the fruit of their love. Boundless love can multiply from this fruit. In this way, we are linked to the love of the individual, family, tribe, nation, world, universe, and ultimately to the essential love of God. Because God is a parent, we're parents, we have love because God has love. Each organ in our body was created for the sake of love. Watch this. For example, the eyes were obviously created for the purpose of sight, but to see what? The eyes were created specifically to look for love, which is a common thing among all beings. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? We're always looking to see our loved ones. I wish I could see you again. I want to see you. I want to see my kids. I want to see my spouse. We want to see people we love. The nose is made to smell, specifically to smell the fragrance of love. You can make your own examples for that one. Similarly, our ears were created to hear the sounds of love. Of all the sounds we hear, the one sound that we never get tired of hearing is the sound of someone saying, I love you. This is as true for senior citizens as it is for young people. True, right? It's just not just babies. We clearly know babies had to be held, loved, touched, coddled, cooed to, sang songs to, be told we love them, but it's the same for senior citizens. It doesn't stop just because we get bigger. It's harder, right? But it doesn't stop. The need for hugging, touching, loving, hearing the words I love you, compliments, respect, all those things are essential for us as we get older, as much as it is for your little kids, right? When your little kids bring artwork from kindergarten and it's all goofy and funny, you don't say, oh, this is not art. This is junky. I don't like this. Why don't you come back when you're in high school and you know how to draw? Nobody says that to their little kids, right? But do we say that to our husbands and wives? It's a mistake to say that to our husbands and wives. It's a mistake to do that. Husbands and wives just need just as much love and respect as little kids do. Is that interesting? That's what Mother's saying. Now, I'm going to depart from that a little bit to prove Mother's point in biology, right? Because before that, it's just religion. But biology tells us all these things are perfectly correct that Mother says. So here's a book I wish we all would read and study. Love and Survival, the Scientific Basis for the Healing Power of Intimacy. Right? This is by a doctor named Dr. Dean Ornish. You can get it at, it's called, so, Love and Survival. It says survival isn't just about intellect or physical strength or about what's the other thing? Willpower. It's a scientific basis for the healing power of intimacy, the healing power of love. Scientific basis. So when we read Mother's words, I love Mother's words, but some people will be skeptical because Mother's religious. So let's look at the science. This is one of my favorite stories. In 1980, Science, one of the most well-respected and prestigious journals, published a fascinating article revealing the effects of social factors on the progression of atherosclerosis blockages in the arteries. So they wanted to study people who get heart attacks, get hardening of the arteries, atherosclerosis, plaque builds up on the inside of your arteries. They wanted to be able to now measure how does it come, what can cure it. And the story became the social factors involved in that. Social factors, not just food factors, not just nutrition, not just exercise. What are the social factors? So listen to this. In this study, the scientists put a group of rabbits on a diet to stop their hearts. I suppose it's bacon. I don't know what is it. Steve is a doctor. I don't know what it is. Anyway, the rabbits were genetically comparable, right? They wanted to all match them, so they're very similar rabbits. So the scientists expected all of them to get blocked arteries at the same rate. But they didn't. Isn't that interesting? They wanted to find out why do some of the rabbits get blocked arteries while the other rabbits don't get blocked arteries. Some of the rabbits got a lot more blockages than others, and the scientists couldn't figure out why, since they were all on the exact same diet, they all had the same genes, they all had the same exercise, everything was the same except for one thing. You know what that one thing was? The rabbits were in cages stacked up to the ceiling. The ones in the higher cages got a lot more blockages than the ones in the lower cages. So was it altitude? Altitude has something to cause them? No. At first that made no sense to them. Then they realized it was a short technician who changed everything. When they looked into it further, they found that when the lab technician who was short was feeding the rabbits, she would play with the ones in the lower cages because she could reach them, but she had to ignore the ones on top. Isn't that interesting? So what they discovered is they thought, well, maybe that had something to do with it. Again, this is science. You don't just think it does. You have to do an experiment where you isolate. You have to have a control group. You have to have the played with group, and then you have a non-played with group, right? So they took another group of rabbits and randomly divided them into 3 groups, A, B, and C, and then repeated the experiment later with groups D and E. All the rabbits were put on the same heart-stopping diet. Again, I'm sure it doesn't involve carrots, whatever it is. As before, they were genetically comparable. Rabbits in the C and E group were left alone, other than for normal laboratory care. The rabbits in group A, B, and D were taken out of the cages every day to do what? To play. To play. Here's what the experimenter wrote. It should be noted that the essence of the experimental environment study here was to establish a one-to-one relationship between each animal and the experimenter. This was achieved through an early morning half-hour visit during which the animal was handled gently, stroked, just what you do with babies, right? Stroked, talked to, and played with. Also an hour-long feeding period during which the animal was also touched and talked to, and a number of 5-minute visits during the day. Throughout this daily process, the animals quickly learned to recognize the experimenter when she was present. The animals sought her personal attention. The animals liked it. So, please play with me. I'm here I am, let's play. Can you talk to me? Tell me a story. It's just like your kids, right? Because it's the same biology. The God who made rabbits made your kids, and made your husband, and made your wife. Listen to this. And when she was present, even sought her personal attention. The researchers were amazed to find that these rabbits have 60% less plaque in their arteries than those who were ignored, and even though they were genetically comparable and on the exact same diet. That's science, right? That's amazing. If there was a drug that could do this, we would be prescribing it every day, but doctors, materialists generally only look at the mechanism, not the person, and they don't consider love a part of the healing or health process. That's why it says a scientific study to show that intimacy and love are part of the healing factor. Isn't that amazing? It gets better than this. So that's what this book is about, the scientific basis. So we have mother's basis, the divine basis, the religious basis for love, but now this is a scientific basis for the healing power of intimacy and survival of our physical body. So when Mother says each organ of our body was designed to receive love, it includes our arteries and veins, right?
Yeah.
Includes our brain, includes our liver, our stomach, all those things are involved when she says we're all designed to receive love. Exposure to, this is the introduction to the book. Exposure to bacteria, viruses, and other pathogens may be necessary but not sufficient to cause illness. For example, most people who test positive for being infected with tubercle bacillus never develop tuberculosis, right? There's something that protects us. Most people who are infected with influenza virus do not get the flu. Defenses are enhanced and buffered by love and relationship. So this is Dr. Dean Ornish's introduction to his book. So then he gives us another one. Bacteria, viruses, and other microorganisms must first penetrate through our immune, neuroendocrine, and other defense systems. Anyhow, listen to this one. This one's even better. Researchers from Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland studied almost 10,000 married men with no prior history of angina, chest pain. Men who had high levels of risk factors such as elevated cholesterol, high blood pressure, age, diabetes, and electrocardiogram abnormalities were over 20 times more likely to develop new angina during the next 5 years, right? You think you have high cholesterol, you have high blood pressure, you have diabetes, you have all these things. Certainly you're going to have heart problems. Listen to this, though. However, those who answered yes to this simple question, does your wife show you her love? Listen to this. Had significantly less angina even when they had high other risk factors. Just like the rabbits. Just like the rabbits, right? Take your husband out, play with him, talk with him, rub him. Take him out of his cage, hug him, kiss him. Express your love to him even though he has high risk factors, a high stress job, he eats wrong, doesn't exercise, all those things. If just he receives love, just feels the expressed love of his wife, will have significantly less heart problems. Isn't that amazing? Yes. That's why it's called the scientific basis for the healing power of intimacy. It's a scientific basis for the healing power of intimacy. Not only the religious basis has been there all along, since Jesus, right? But the scientific basis is just coming online now. Men who had these factors but did not have a wife who showed her love had substantially increased angina, almost twice as much. Twice, 100% more. Wow. People whose wife was not nice to them or didn't express love to them had twice the heart problems. 100% more. That's incredible, right? The greater the cholesterol and blood pressure and the greater anxiety and stress, the more important was the love of the spouse in buffering against these harmful effects. Amazing, right? True parents have been telling this for like the last 50 years. Those are mother's words, except with some scientists actually studying it. What?
Could I ask, is it the other way around for wives with husbands?
Absolutely the same. Absolutely the same, yes. We're going to talk about another one next. And he does. The book is like 200 pages. I just picked out some that I thought would be significant to us. And my goal is always to pique your interest so you'll go buy the book. I truly believe in reading is one of the best things you can do in your life. And there's many more examples, but then he also gives examples. How do you love your husband? What does love to your husband mean? I didn't put any of these in there. You have True Father's words for that. So he says not everyone has a wife, but there are other types of social support that are very important. For example, if you became ill, is there a friend who would drive you to the hospital or would you have to take a taxi or ambulance? So maybe your wife isn't the most romantic person in the world, but she would at least drive you to the hospital. Right? At least she would call 911. So there's still social support there, even though they never take you out of your cage and pet you and stuff. Nevertheless, there's still support from your wife or from your family or from your children or from our church, right? Andy visits Frank Serrano. I visit him occasionally. Different people visit him. We strongly believe that this is spiritually and physically helpful. And it's helpful for both sides, by the way. Next, women. Talk about women. women with metastatic breast cancer were randomly assigned to two groups. Both groups received conventional medical care such as chemotherapy, surgery, radiation, medications. Listen to this though. In addition, one group of women met together for 90 minutes once a week for a year. Patients were encouraged to come regularly and to express their feelings about the illness and effects on their lives in a supportive environment that felt safe enough for them to express what they were really feeling, especially including their fears of disfigurement, right? Breast cancer, mastectomy, that's a giant scar for women, right? Of dying, of being abandoned by their friends and spouses and so on and so forth, women, especially young women. I feel some fear, if I lose my breast, then my husband won't love me anymore, right? So anyway, you can read the book. And so people felt afraid. So what they would do is, the groups were led by a psychiatrist or social worker, plus a therapist who had been in breast cancer remission. So a therapist who had experienced breast cancer was also there to help the support group. No one understands what it means to have breast cancer better than others who had gone through very similar experiences. So here's what happened. As a result, a strong sense of community and intimacy developed. Although the word love was not used in the journal report because they're scientists, as in most scientific publications, one could say that these women began to love and care for each other. In fact, that's what they said happened. They felt comfort with each other. They began to bring food, feed each other, exchange recipes, talk to each other, and things like that. The groups continued meeting once a week for just 1 year. And I'm paraphrasing this a little bit too, right? 5 years later, Dr. Spiegel, who conducted it wasn't an experiment, who conducted the therapy, told me, I finally got around to looking at the data and I almost fell off my chair. Here's what happened. Those women who had the weekly support group lived on average twice as long as in the other group of women who didn't have the support group. So again, we're talking about love, intimacy, contact, expression. We say there's three main parts of love, right? Three main parts are talk, touch, and time. You have to give our people we love talk, touch, and time. And I show you many times. That's what Jesus did to the apostles, right? Talk, touch, and time. So here's what happened. All of the women, unfortunately, in the comparison group who did not have the support group were dead after 5 years. Every single one of them. Isn't that amazing? This is modern science. That's why they urge you to go to support groups now. This is usually in hospitals. Kaiser wants you to go to a support group now. The only women still alive were those who had received the weekly group support sessions. Those are the only ones who survived the 5 years. Also, the time interval from first metastasis to death was significantly longer than those who had received the support group. Isn't that amazing? So my point is, when we read Mother's words, you should understand this is absolute truth. This is what we should learn to do. This is what we should learn to do with each other. Dr. Spiegel's work is more fully described in his book, Living Beyond Limits. There's another beautiful book if you want to read it. In other words, although diet, blood pressure, and other risk factors play an important role in developing heart disease, these forces can be significantly moderated by loving relationships. Those are Dr. Dean Ornish's words. So, here's a question. What is love? Is it penicillin? No. Is it a vitamin? Is it some kind of nutrition? A protein source? No. Mother said it's not an external thing. Mother says it's not a physical thing on the earth. Mother said love is an internal, invisible thing that lasts forever. See how that works? See how right Mother is, how her intuition is perfectly correct, right? Love is a spiritual force because God is spiritual. And love heals because our bodies were designed to grow based on invisible love. And now we know that's 100% true, right? God is love. We are of God. We are love too. Isn't that amazing? So this is the truth. Here's true Mother. She's continuing. She's excited now. Mother says even God is vulnerable to love. Even God can be moved by love, right? Love has the power to disarm God completely. Almighty God cannot resist breaking into a big smile when smelling the fragrance of love from human beings. Our love. If you love each other, now we think this is universal. It's not just Christians praising God. Even when pagans love each other, God's heart is moved. Right? When pagans are willing to sacrifice their life for the sake of their children, God, out of love, God's heart is moved. Right? All acts of love move God's heart. Now, we're Christians and we think because we know things, that makes a big difference. God enjoys love stories too. Right? When you write a love story or you make a love story, you create a love story out of your life, even God is moved by that. I see, sorry, that was misspelled. But how much more pleasing it is when love is actually practiced to God, to everybody. When you're in love, all animals like to be in love with you, right? Dogs, puppies, kittens, whales, horses, elephants, octopi. Octopi love it when people love them. Rabbits get better and resist atherosclerosis and a terrible diet because people love them. That's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. And it's something you should always remember and we should try to accomplish. We are born in love. Mother says we are born in love. We grow by receiving love. Also, that means we grow by giving love. You cannot receive unless you give, right? Each of us is a substantial fruit of our parents' love. The nature of our parents' love is made visible in us. So we say love is invisible, but through us, our parents' love is made visible. Parents love their children because their children are the fruit of their love. And she's also talking about God. God loves you because you're the fruit of God's love. Boundless love can multiply from this fruit. In this way, we are linked to the love of the individual, family, tribe, nation, world, universe, and ultimately to the essential love of God. Amen? Amen? Thank you very much. I hope you read Mother's Anthology.